It's Chris with Audeze. We're here with Brian Lucey at Magic Garden Mastering in Los Angeles, California. We're going to talk with him and Christy from DCS about what he does and what the magic part of Magic Garden is. So tell us about how you got started in music, because I know you started as a player, right?
Yeah, I started playing when I was 11, and listening to vinyl and dropping the needle and learning songs and riffs. And my neighbor was in a band when he was in high school, and he taught me Chuck Berry riffs and all this kind of stuff. And this was in like 1978, 1980, I guess, when I started playing. I started playing in 78. It was a great era of music. And then I was a pro in New York City. By the time I was 18, 19, I played guitar in a group 6 nights a week around the East Village and all that. And then took a detour for 7 years and studied with Robert Fripp and Guitarcraft. Robert Fripp, famously the founder of King Crimson, and an iconic guitarist with his own style and his own really brilliant insights into life. And Fripp and Eno basically invented ambient music. 2 Revoxes on the side and running the tape loop. I'm not sure which of the 2 of them gets credit for that, but I think of them as a unit at that era. And so, yeah, I was listening to Frippertronics on vinyl, and then that led to studying for 7 years on and off, a seminar here for a week, a 2-week, a 3-month with Robert, and Guitarcraft courses. And that led to some, alternative life things like meditating. Like I used to meditate, not every day. I was trying to do it every day, but I failed. But like 25, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, put that in quotes, it was maybe more like 3 days a week. What I learned from that was the ability to listen from a place of stillness. And that is my secret weapon, is I don't listen with my head necessarily alone. I don't listen with my thoughts or even with my feelings. I listen very much whole body. So I hear vibration as a physical experience, and that turns out to be a real advantage. So all those years of meditating were very helpful, and I'm always recommending people do it, even if it's 10 minutes a day, because being still as a person allows you to really perceive what's out there. So in the late 90s, mastering, what's mastering? I don't know. I never paid attention to the names of many engineers. I mean, a few of them, Chad Blake, who I work for now, I knew Chad's name, Daniel Lanois, Bob Ludwig. Those were maybe the only 3 engineers that I paid attention to, because I was a musician. I was concerned with a whole other arena. It wasn't the who's who of engineering. But at the time, Bob Ludwig was using the Pacific Microsonics converter that we see there. Those are my spares. And the HD CD logo was popping up on some CDs that I thought sounded good. And so that was the first piece that I bought. And that's not true. So the first thing I did was I had a TC finalizer that I borrowed from a friend, and I did a project with that. And I said, okay, that's awful. that's not going to work. So then I started getting into analog hardware, as I had done for recording. The recording started with the ADATs, it ended with Ampex 2-inch MM1200s. The mastering started with a finalizer, and then it went to the Pacific Microsonics converter, and then it went to trying pretty much everything that was available, which ended up in the chain that's downstairs. So I put together this chain over time that became the chain that's, with a couple of additions. The overstayers new, the better makers new, but basically the sound of the chain is what I found 20 years ago, and everything I've done is from that. I did a project with my friends, the California Guitar Trio, and they had Tony Levin with a tour, and it was a live thing called Rocks the West. And I think I did that one, and then really never intended to be a professional. I thought I would be an artist forever. And through a period of years, the artistry became less interesting, and the challenge of mastering became more exciting and more appealing. I would just be perpetually frustrated with what was released, and I was like, oh, I wish that sounded like this. I had all these ideas in my head about how music could sound. And I built a chain that could do it eventually, and then I started doing it. And it just kept growing and growing. And, you know, I had a different approach than people have today. People today are like wanting to be in the music business. They want to get gigs. And the problem with that approach is that the only way in the door is to work for someone else. And that goes one way or the other. It's either a great learning experience and an apprenticeship, or it's a crippling lack of developing yourself. And it can go either way. For me, not having, living in Ohio at the time, there was no apprenticeships available. There was nothing nearby. So I'm self-taught all the way through. So what I did was just experiment and A/B and I started with listening to early 80s CDs that were like, Dire Straits and the Police and things that were very anemic in terms of their harmonic content. They were very dynamic. There was a lot of like tape transfers, and all those things were great practice tools to run through my freshly built chain in the early 2000s and to practice. And so, that's how I did it. Similar to what I've done with Atmos is to take what's online and say, okay, here's all the releases, how could they be better? I practiced with existing material that was kind of these anemic, transient rich, harmonically lame early CDs, and got very confident that I knew what I was doing. And then eventually friends would say, hey, that sounds good, will you do mine? So it was never meant to be anything but for me, and then it became for me and my friends. But then people would hear it and they would say, oh, that. And so what I recommend to young people, which doesn't work for everybody, and it's not a dogmatic thought. It's not like everyone needs to do what I did, because certainly that's not the case. Everybody has to find their own way. But one approach is to have a day job, to have a source of income, to have your nights and weekends where you can investigate and study and A/B compare and practice your craft. And if somebody wants to pay you for that, they'll notice what you do. They'll come to you, as opposed to spending all of your time in PR and social media and marketing and not spending your time developing something of value. So I had this strategy from Robert Fripp. Robert said to me, the music business is a tricky place, not his language. And it's best to have it sort of as a side passion, so that you always have your heart, you always have your soul, you have your integrity. And if people want to pay you for what you do, they'll find you. And he was correct. And so that's what happened to me, was the passion I had for music became a passion for self-taught engineering, which became an interest in this mastering thing, which was never on the radar. And then the mastering thing became very interesting. And then the world started to notice, and people started to tell their friends, and every record I did, somebody else would hear it, someone else would hear it. So, in the beginning, I was probably giving it away early on. And then over time, you start making money, and you're making money. And then by 2010, I did the Black Keys Brothers, which was an international hit. That was like the moment where suddenly millions of people heard what I could do, which I'd been doing for 10 or 12 years. The same thing, But that's how the world works. If you can be doing a great thing, but if no one knows you're doing it, nobody knows. So after Brothers, everybody who heard that record was like, oh, who's that guy? And then things took off a little quicker from there. But they were getting better and better every year from the moment I started mastering. So I had become full-time at it long before Brothers, and relegated the music making to a passion, which eventually I just stopped doing completely. So my mom died suddenly last spring. I started playing music again. I've got new instruments and microphones and preamps around us here to kind of reconnect with that. But it's been 15, 20 years since that was my primary focus. And now I do it for fun.
What's the magic part about Magic Garden?
The magic is the music. The magic is the music. There's magic in music. And it's my job as the gardener to bring it out. And that's what it is. Everybody loves what they sent, and I tend to not love almost anything that's sent. And so I can help them to get it to where they're happy and I'm happy. And then we hope that the inherent magic in music has come out and connects with people and makes the artist happy, makes the world happy. So yes, the magic is the music. I'm just the gardener. I'm just here to help.